My name is Mary Price. I am the Events and Marketing Director at the Shingo Institute. And I am thrilled to have a panel of wonderful people with us today. So I'm going to just quickly introduce them, introduce the topic, and then I'm going to turn the time over to them. We have Bruce Hamilton. He is the Senior Advisor for GBMP Consulting Group. We have Joanne Paps. She's the Research Director from the Shingo Institute. We have Joy Gore. She's the Principal Improvement Consultant at Stanford Healthcare. And we have Amberly Carter. She's the Global Procurement and Analysis at OC Tanner. So I'm so thrilled to have them with us. We're going to be discussing harmonizing process improvement approaches. And Bruce, just to get us started today, why don't you tell us a little bit what the group's purpose is?
Certainly, Mary. And thanks to the Shingo Institute for hosting this webinar. 4 of us are part of the Adjacent Communities Working Group, which is one of about a dozen groups studying a variety of important issues regarding the future of people at work. The project arose from discussions at MIT dating back to 2022 regarding the many forces that are already affecting the nature of human work, including shifting generational workforce expectations, technological advances, especially AI, and of special interest to our working group, proliferating approaches to process improvement, from TPS to lean startup, agile, lean construction, DevOps, TOC, Six Sigma, and many more. Companies have so many methodologies to choose from, and this can be confusing, especially since each methodology typically views the others as competition. Our hypothesis, however, based on initial study, is that end user organizations who are able to deploy a variety of different process improvement approaches in concert develop more robust problem solving. Our group's purpose is to help organizations navigate the complexity of multiple improvement methodologies by providing clarity about when and how different approaches can work together. Joanne, perhaps you could share how the Shingo Institute is collaborating with other nonprofit organizations and end users to support this eclectic approach to process improvement, and maybe share your experience, your personal experience as well, with the challenges and benefits of deploying multiple tool sets together.
Within the Future of People at Work initiative, we formed a subgroup called the Adjacent Communities. This is code for what Bruce referred to earlier, is organizing the multiple improvement methodologies so that we can all work together. Along with the Shingo Institute, we have representation on our team that includes the Lean Enterprise Institute, the Toyota Production System Support Center, the Greater Boston Manufacturing Partnership, which Bruce is a member of, Visible Flow Consulting, and end user representatives from Stanford Health, where Joy is, and OC Tanner, represented by Amberly. And we've assembled this group to represent both the end user perspective along with the nonprofit support groups that help companies lean into the various improvement methodologies and have experienced this challenge firsthand. I've been fortunate to be a lean practitioner for my entire career. Long time. And I've always viewed an organization's continuous improvement initiative as like an umbrella, an overarching theme where all the various CI tools and modalities can all live together in peace and harmony. Early in my career, I worked at a Shingo recipient company that had a really strong lean program based on the Toyota Production System. Within that fold included such tools as policy deployment, using the X matrix, Kaizen events, including 3P, which is code for production preparation process. For new formulations, we've used value analysis, value engineering for product and equipment design, total productive maintenance for equipment, and so on. And all lived very happily under the umbrella until Six Sigma came to town. And suddenly there was this wall between the two methodologies, and the two became very separate initiatives. And to strategically bridge the two approaches, which fell under my purview, I studied and received my Six Sigma black belt, if only to better understand the language and approach my team was taking. They would do presentations and I would have no idea what they were talking about. So it was really to help manage how we would strategically use them in our initiative. And that was like my secret decoder ring, because both methodologies had a place in our work. Lean for improving the flow and the quality of the product, and Six Sigma for diving deep into formulation processing. I worked at a chemical plant. And the production process to optimize or fine-tune quality and innovative improvements. And it was then that I realized that the approaches and the philosophies in which these things were practiced were two different things. So you have your philosophy, and then you have your tools. The Shingo model, as well as the Toyota production system, the Baldrige model, the ISO standards, things like that, served as this overarching constructs or philosophy, where organizations based much of their culture. The Shingo model represents three very distinct dimensions of that philosophy, where we have the cultural enablers dimension, in which all the management, work, improvement processes are all founded in respect and leading with humility. The enterprise alignment dimension, where the purpose and the goals across the enterprise are aligned to create value for the customer. And of course, continuous improvement, where the systems and the tools associated with improving value creation are utilized, agnostic of the approach or the origin of the improvement methodology. Six Sigma lives here, Lean, Kaizen, all of the various approaches. And all these years later, I find it really interesting that there have always seemed to be a new flavor of the day. And that seems so different than previous approaches. And leadership completely tosses out the old and in with the new. And I'm curious to hear about the experience of others with balancing or using multiple approaches within the same current work environment. So please put any experiences in the chat along with any questions you might have for us. Additionally, on the screen, you'll see a QR code. This is just going to be a kind of a data that we're going to gather, if it's okay with you, where you can share your experiences with us in terms of which approaches are you using? Which approaches have you played with in the past or worked with in the past, and now maybe you're doing different things. So if you have a moment to take that survey, we'd really appreciate it. Now I'm going to toss it to Amberly. Would you like to introduce yourself and share your experience?
Hi everyone, I'm Amberly Carter. I am a global procurement analyst for manufacturing at OC Tanner. I hold a Bachelor's of Science in Supply Chain Management from Weber State University, and I'm actually just really passionate about the philosophies behind continuous improvement. I have been with OC Tanner for about 4.5 years, and I've had the privilege of working really closely with our manufacturing and operations teams, and have been able to see firsthand how the principles of continuous improvement have shaped our culture and our success. To give you a little bit of background, OC Tanner Manufacturing has been on a lean journey for over 30 years. And if you haven't had the chance to come out to Salt Lake to see what we do, OC Tanner is an employee recognition company that specializes in creating corporate awards and employee recognition products. Our manufacturing teams and craftsmen make some of the most beautiful symbolic trophies I've ever seen. In our 30-year journey, we've gone from a 26-day throughput time to just 20 minutes in some areas. And we've implemented one-piece flow, make-to-order systems, eliminated toxic hazardous waste, and increased efficiency 8 times over. We've even been recognized by Toyota as a showcase site for lean manufacturing excellence, and we are a go-and-see site for McKinsey. Now, Gary Peterson is the now executive at OC Tanner who led this charge that started 30 years ago. And one of my favorite things that he shared about that journey was actually mentioned at the Future of People at Work conference that was held at OC Tanner this last summer, where he said, we've given back to this community, the continuous improvement community, as much as we can, because we don't have one sole organization that we can thank for what we've been able to accomplish at OC Tanner. And to me, this quote, I quote this now because I really think that embodies the way that OC Tanner has been able to learn from a number of methodologies and accomplish operational excellence. Today, we look to Shingo for a more principle-based, higher-level methodology, but have really great partnerships with AME, TSSC, and so many other great organizations that help make our people, and in turn, our systems better. One of the catalysts on our journey, which I find interesting, was actually working for the Shingo Prize, which we were awarded in 1999. In hindsight, though, I think if the Shingo examiners were to take a visit, the Shingo examiners of today were to take a visit to OC Tanner's factory floor of 1999, I think we would fall short today. And I think that, to me, that attests to this continually rising water level that we all benefit from when we're really creating together. I don't think there was ever a big question of what methodologies we would adopt and which we would ignore, but we worked to understand what our organization needed and addressed systems intentionally, pulling in the resources that we found the most beneficial to our need that we had at the time. I think most recently it was standardized work, and we pulled in TSSC to help us build standardized work. And I think that approach has benefited us quite a bit. So I'm going to pass the baton now to Joy, who I think will bring another unique light to this conversation.
So I started my career as a manufacturing engineer at Medtronic. I was where I was focusing on improvement, and I learned where I learned Lean Sigma where Medtronic was rolling out a GE-based methodology. And then I went to business school at Stanford, moved to operations consulting, where we were all about improving processes, but doing them in different ways. I've been in healthcare for the past 10 plus years as both an improvement consultant and a clinic manager, doing a lean promotion office, trying to build a lean organization. And then here at Stanford for the last 6 years, all of our team are coming from different places, with different industry experience, different methodology experience. So it's this nice mixing pot where we all get to learn from each other. And if we think about the organization, from 2013 to 2016, Stanford Healthcare had a huge focus on becoming a lean organization, on improving communication, reducing waste, building strategy deployment, visual boards, tiered huddles, A3s. All of our leaders went through and taught lean principles through a Leaders as Teachers program. And our team, our performance excellence team at that time, was almost 50 people, just spread across the entire organization. In 2016, our Stanford Healthcare was in the red for the very first time. We got a new CEO and COO, and they said, you know what, this is too expensive. Like we're focused too much on process and not enough on what we actually need to be doing. So any lean tools that were taking time and money but weren't actively used were dropped. Our team went from that 50 down to about 15. And our improvement focus changed from building a lean culture to what is it that we need to be doing, what impact do we need to be making, and how do we learn from others to be able to do that. And so it was no longer about the methodology. Now we do still have a lot of lean practices. We use A3s everywhere. We have several levels of classes to be able to learn how to use them. We have a tiered huddle system, visual boards to link organizational goals to local improvements. And many of our leaders spend a lot of time in the Gemba learning and developing their staff. We also run our own Lean Six Sigma Black Belt course and an advanced course in improvement science, which is centered around Deming systems of profound knowledge and the improvement guide. And we're in Silicon Valley. It's the home of design thinking. So we definitely bring in design thinking wherever we can. And so overall, kind of to Joanne's point of improvement being an umbrella, we don't necessarily think about which methodology we're using. At a high level, they're all about understanding current state, understanding future state, figuring out how to improve and care for our patients, our staff, and our organization.
Our group has been working currently every week for about a half an hour, trying to understand what is this impact that we have with the proliferation of different methodologies. We counted so far 40 different either methodologies or authoritative sources. And Joy at one point had said, yeah, this is really of interest to me because this is kind of the situation that we have in our organization. We would like to be able to use the improvement tool that is best suited to the problem that we have, but there are so many to choose from. So, and Amberly, you I think had spoken to this a little bit as well.
I think that there are so many options to choose from, and I think that if you're beginning your maybe quote unquote lean journey, that it can maybe be overwhelming and you don't know where to go. I would say like part of our initiative is hopefully to be able to bring synopses of what all of these organizations mean and maybe what their value proposition is, and be able to maybe sort through the value that each organization really brings so that you might be able to pick out the things that you're like, oh, all right, I want to go learn standardized work. Maybe the best place for that is TSSC. And let's see if we can partner with them. I think that that's been powerful for us, but that's been built really manually at OC Tanner through connections and networks. And it took a lot of time to understand those interrelations between the organizations. So I think that part of our goal as this working group is to hopefully bring that together and make that easier for the lean community, for continuous improvement in community.
That's great, Amberly. Thanks. And you know, that's what our team is trying to really figure out at this point, is what is the best approach to sharing which tools are best used for which purposes. I always think about you know, that analogy of, you know, hammering a nail into a board. And you know, you could use a rock, you could use the butt end of a screwdriver, you could use the heel of a shoe, right? but you know, there's a tool that was designed to do that efficiently and safely. So we're curious to understand, like, what's the best thing for us to do with this information as we gather it, in terms of what would serve the users, what would serve the user group. So we're curious to hear from you. Mary, do we have any questions in the?
We do. We have one question. I ask, have you drawn any conclusions? Is there a path forward? And where can I learn more about it?
What we have is a hypothesis, and we have a lot of, let's say, personal experiences, mine included, and let's say frustration with sometimes the politics and constraints which keep us from using, you know, choosing from multiple sources. And that's what drew me to this particular effort. Conclusions, no, and that's why we're looking for more people to participate. You know, Joanne had posted a questionnaire for you, and if you'd like to participate, would love to have you. I think, Joy, that's how you joined us, right? You were not an original member of the group, but you looked at this and said, yeah, I'd like to solve that problem. We'd like to know with more certainty where to go when we're looking for improvement.
Yeah, and I think, you know, as we consider, we have not yet come to any conclusions to basically answer that question. The path forward is, you know, to gain the information from the user groups, and there will also be some upcoming opportunities to get involved further. But one of the examples that I had in my experience was I was asked to combine a legacy Six Sigma program with a new Lean program. And this was different than the other company. This was a completely different company. This was received as, they're both great, but they were very separate. And there were all these little pennants. Remember those little triangle flags that said yellow belt, green belt, black belt, and people had them hanging all on their cubes, and we're so proud of them. And to try to now introduce a Lean methodology on top of that kind of didn't pay respect to the methodologies that went before. So one of the things that I ended up doing was really studying the tools of the Six Sigma methodology. Because when I started, you know, a lot of the Lean work in the very traditional Toyota production system was, you know, do a product family matrix and understand where the commonalities are. And you sit around and you brainstorm, well, what are all the criteria with which we want to, you know, look at to find commonality. And then, you know, simply using things like a SIPOC, which was a tool in the Six Sigma belt, helped me define what all of those rows across the top in a product family matrix should be. And there were things like the critical to quality, critical to customer tree, which also was a tool in the Six Sigma methodology that we then used for determining what our leading and lagging indicators would be. So there was a lot of synergy in that. You know, Lean didn't have a lot of rules defined in terms of how you collect the data around it, other than obviously time studies. But it was a really neat opportunity to, which you know, I needed to be humble. I needed to kind of like bow to the Six Sigma folks that I had working for me, and say, you know all of these things, teach me. And so I think that's how we have to approach a lot of these methodologies, is with humility, and a lot of us that are, Toyota production system files or whatever you would call that, Bruce, have a real strong passion around what that means in terms of Toyota production system, and there is no other way. So it's curious to see how folks feel about this.
I know you talked about this a little bit, but we have another question in the chat that just wants some expansion. So how did you choose between the different methodologies and what criteria did you use?
I'll run with the Lean Six Sigma program that we deployed. We basically had to look at it from where do each of these tools fit. Because when I got my Six Sigma black belt, it was in the very early days at my Shingo recipient company. And I did my Six Sigma black belt project on a process that I could have done a Kaizen event and had results within a week, but I followed the DMAIC methodology. So I was like using the butt of a shoe to nail in a nail, right? Just to get my black belt, which is crazy. So part of it is really understanding where's the best use for the tools. And when we looked at it at my company, we looked at Lean as like the zoom out, at that value stream focus where you could look across an enterprise, you could look across a process or a value stream and identify where the waste was and use the tools associated with that to improve. But then when we had a problem that was really technical, we would zoom down with the Six Sigma tools and go really deep into a process, into a specific area, because that was the best use for the tool in that example. So I think that's a really good question there. Thank you.
Yeah, I think our hypothesis is that there is synergy, that in fact the boundaries are imaginary. That we need to, because, I had a conversation with Josh Howe from LEI a while back, and he said, he says, we all just kind of grew up with something, and that becomes the way we do things. So we're often, in the lean world saying, we do things just because we've always done it that way. And it's the same with these methodologies. You grow up with a certain background, and it sort of becomes the way in which you perform. And it shouldn't be the only way. If you look at that metaphor, the tree that we'd had on the screen a while back, that's kind of what our thinking is. The philosophy is in the roots there. It's what's grounded. It's what makes all of this work. It's the human side of this process. But on the branches, and one of our team members is from Toyota. Toshi Kitamura has worked his entire career at Toyota. He's very much a TPS guy. But he said, even at Toyota, there are areas where we use Agile and other methodologies, and we recognize that those may make sense in areas. The philosophy does not change. Philosophy, the focus on people and human development doesn't change, but the methods can if we let them do that. So I think that's kind of where our group is headed. We'd like to make that obvious.
To add a little bit more to what Bruce was saying, where he said that we typically just do what we know, right? And it's a bit like doing current state, where if you have a team that hasn't done a whole lot of current state analysis, they just do what they have always been doing, and they assume that the answer and the improvement that they want to make is based on that. And as improvement people, we try to broaden their view, right? We try to make it so that they can be thinking about other things. What big things are they not thinking about? And that's what we're trying to do in this group, is help us, both help ourselves see, but help make it easy to understand what other options are out there, so that we can, all of you who are on this call can figure out which direction we want to go.
How do you distinguish between improvement philosophy and tools?
I think when you think about a philosophy, like the Shingo methodology is obviously the one that's nearest and dearest to my heart. But it serves as that umbrella, and it doesn't tell you what necessarily tool to use or how to use it, but it gives you guidelines around the way you should use it. So as I mentioned before, with the Shingo model, it's about making sure there's a system that aligns everybody around the purpose and the mission of the organization, from the top level all the way down to the front line. You could use a myriad of tools to do that and to accomplish that, whether it's huddle boards and tiered huddles and policy deployment or A3s, all kinds of tools to do that. The same with the continuous improvement we've talked about. There's TPM, 5S visual systems, 3P, all of these are tools that you can use to achieve a purpose, but it's within the construct of you're going to work on that problem with that tool in the guidelines that it's adding value to your customer. So within that enterprise alignment. And of course, we always do all of our work with respect for every individual, having that humility to say, I don't know everything. I always approach it that there's a saying that I have very early that I learned is that anyone can be your sensei. A sensei is someone who has gone before you, who knows stuff that you might not know. And I remember there was this grubby maintenance guy that he was brilliant. You would never guess it by looking at it. But he taught me so many lessons because I wanted to learn. I wanted to understand. So I think there's a lot to be said about the construct and how your philosophy of your organization is, and then how these tools are applied.
This whole exercise is a labor of love of 7 not-for-profits who we're not making any money on this. We're trying to understand and look more strategically at how work is going to occur. We see it as really critical. So at each of the conferences, we're trying to promote, as part of the conference, the future of people at work. And so I want to just promote that. Our conference is coming up on October 27 and 28. For those of you who are in the neighborhood, and Rachel Reuter, who is from the Future of People at Work management team, will be joining us and promoting the ideas. So if you have more questions, we'll be there. We probably are going to have 12 members from the Future of People at Work, and there will be sessions to share what these different, not just the adjacent communities, but also a team on next generation and AI and things that are just impacting work. We don't want to wait for the future to be here. We want to be planning ahead, and that's the purpose of the Future of People at Work. So it's a QR code there if you'd like to join us. Thank you.
I want to thank the panelists for joining us today. And if you want to learn more, we did post an article in our newsletter. You could just find that at shingo.org/articles. It talks more about the Future of People at Work and the adjacent communities and how you can get involved in addition to the PowerPoint presentation today. So one of the other questions we had, let me just display this. So they want their team to do a few Kaizen projects, but several members only want to get their green or black belt. And is there a suggestion on how they should approach this?
The most important part is always to focus on knowledge. I would encourage you to think about why you want them to do these Kaizen events, right? Typically, I'm initiating a Kaizen event at an organization to inspire others to kind of get behind this idea of continuous improvement. But if they're interested in a black belt or a green belt certification, they might already be inspired. If you're hoping to expand that to a larger group, maybe make them part of your team. Say, I think we can get more people on board with this, and encourage them to also pursue certification. Also getting to the root of why they want certification, right? Maybe they want something that's more transferable, and you can talk through a timeline of, let's start with a Kaizen event and grow from there that might turn into really valuable experience that would benefit you while you're getting your black belt or green belt.
This next question kind of builds on top of that. So some orgs offer certifications related to methodologies, toolkits, while others don't. Are you looking into best practices related to it, training versus certification?
I think we're in this to make the world better. While I think it's important to acknowledge improvement, increasingly, I do see organizations and people who are totally focused on some sort of a symbol next to their name. That's problematical for me.
There's a balance between what the organization needs and personal development. So I think that there's, over the years, there's been a lot of different, there's a bajillion different universities and organizations that provide the Six Sigma methodologies. And, there's lean certifications as well. So I think that's a great combination of both. If you're really passionate about getting a Six Sigma belt, I think you should start with it, because honestly, I'll be the first to say, I got my black belt because I needed to manage people that were black belts. And I needed to know when they were pulling the wool over my eyes or not, because they were speaking a completely different language. But the work that they were doing completely transformed the processing that we were doing. They figured out less expensive formulations they could do. It made a significant difference. So I think it really is a balance of that personal development with what the organization needs.
Nice balance to my comment, Joanne.
You're very welcome.
Perfect. Well, we've answered all the questions. So thanks to each of you for attending today, and thanks to our panelists. And I hope that each of you found value in today's session, and that you're looking to possibly join us and help move forward with this initiative. So thanks to everyone, and take care.
Thank you, Mary, and thanks everybody for joining today.
Thank you.
See ya.